Thank you, Zimbabwe, for tuning into yet another informative edition of your program. This is Agricultural New Directions Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. Now, today I am standing in a hemp field. We are going to be talking of industrial hemp production right here in Zimbabwe as we pave way towards achieving Vision 2030, where we are talking of becoming an upper middle class economy by year 2030. We are talking of not leaving anyone behind. And one of the ways our farming community can contribute to our economy is through diversification. We do not only look into tobacco production, but we also move along and move with times and get into industrial hemp production. Stay tuned. To discuss the possibility of industrial hemp production here in Zimbabwe, I have taken the liberty of inviting Dr. Frank Magama. He is the head plant breeder right here in Zimbabwe at Kutsaga Research Station. Dr. Magama, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Wadzanai. A pleasure to be on this program.
As I have introduced the episode earlier on, I said today we are going to be talking of industrial hemp production. Can you maybe take us through the soil requirements to produce industrial hemp, the climatic regions or the ecological regions that are suitable to support the production of industrial hemp in Zimbabwe?
Thank you very much for that, Wadzanai. So far what we've been finding out from our trials, it's a very robust type of crop that is possible to grow it in various agroecological regions, simply because it likes sandy loamy soils, even fertile soils will do, which is, as you know, our country is very blessed in that area. Yes. It also loves warm weather, so any areas where the temperatures are high will do well as well. Then normal rainfall is also required, so it would really fit us as a summer crop in many places.
Okay.
Yes.
Speaking of weed management, in each and every cropping enterprises, we have weeds being a nuisance in production. What do you do to manage weeds in industrial hemp? Do you weed? What sort of chemicals do you apply when it comes to weed management specifically?
So far, I'm sure there are a number of herbicides that you can use, but once there's been an establishment of this crop, there's a saturation effect that comes through. Okay. We're looking at between 600,000 to 800,000 plants per hectare. So if you think of it from any other crop, there isn't really too much space for any weeds to proliferate because of the smoothing effect that comes with the high population that we're using. Okay. But you might have to weed earlier after germination, but if the land prep has been done very well prior to sowing, you don't expect to do any weeding. So this should be an ideal crop that will obviate the need for weeding, unless something happens, of which there are herbicides that can be used. By the very nature of the crop, the high populations, we don't see much weeds coming through.
Okay, you spoke of land preparation. Just out of question, I would know that most of our viewers there who might be taking notes and are interested in industrial hemp production. Can we maybe talk about industrial hemp, aligning it a bit or comparing it to tobacco? Does it also start from seedbed, or you go straight into the soil? What sort of chemicals do you use when planting it? What sort of fertilizers do you use when planting? Do you also apply top dressing? Can you maybe take us through that?
Yes, thank you very much. Just like another crop, a good land preparation is needed. So we are talking about disking, plowing. To get a fine tooth, you might need to roll as well. But for hemp, we don't need to raise the seedlings prior. You can do what we call a seed drill, okay, right into the bed. Okay. And but before that, you might incorporate some fertilizer, especially basal. Okay. We, in our trials, we have used compound S. For now, that's what we are using. The other specialty blends that can be used, those our crop productivity service, our arm that does research into agronomy and fertilizer, are looking into. But for now, the compounds are doing well that are found on the local market.
But roughly how many kgs per hectare?
I think on these trials we're putting about 650 kgs, okay, of the compound S. Then then you come and you sow, seed drill. Then after about 4 days, 5 days, you get germination coming through. Then you can start, depending on the season where you are putting, and also if you are aiming for the CBD type of hemp or the fiber type, okay, you may need to start your irrigation. Then in about a month's time, you can come with your AN as well. Okay. Yes.
Now, Dr. Magama, I want us to talk about issues surrounding crop protection. Yes. You would find that in tobacco, we have pests and diseases, yes, that are unique to that crop. When it comes to industrial hemp, what sort of pests and diseases are we talking about that attack that can be a nuisance in industrial hemp production? And how can they be controlled?
Thank you very much. So what we've been finding out so far from the 1.5 years when we have done these trials, we have seen very interesting insects. Not much. The disease were actually a bit on the fusarium just after planting. When you have much of the rains coming through just after sowing, you may get some fusarium wilt dumping off. So there are a number of chemicals that can take care of dumping off and fusarium wilt. Then in terms of insects, there wasn't really any of major importance that we came through. We saw a bit of incidental pests that were coming with some bugs that we have not seen in any of the tobacco crops or any other, but things like aphids are also, we also saw some aphids, not the ones for tobacco, but the bean aphid. I don't think we have much of the disease pressure at the moment from our observations. A number of incidental pests that came through, and again our plant health service are looking into chemicals that can control that, transferring our knowledge from tobacco to hemp, but none were of a nature that required any spray application programs. But once that the commercial aspect of hemp is out, we probably will be seeing much more, and our studies here will be informing what kind of chemicals that we can use.
Basically you would find that most farmers who are going to be interested in industrial hemp production are those tobacco farmers who are looking to diversify, or who are looking to think that maybe they do have a better life or profitability in industrial hemp production. I want us to talk about issues surrounding handling of industrial hemp. Once you have maybe taken it from the field, we have issues around post-harvest losses. When it comes to tobacco, you might find that if you're not careful, a farmer might end up having a lot of scrap. We are also now talking of industrial hemp. Handling in terms of harvesting, how do you harvest it? How do you handle it? Is it graded? Is it put in bales? Can you maybe take us through that?
Thank you very much. We're trying to work out with the off-takers of our hemp and see in what form they would prefer the processed hemp stalks or the seed. But for now, in a nutshell, what happens when the hemp is now of maturity, you can cut it down and you can lay it on the field to allow a process called retting. This is the natural decay of the hemp stalk, so that you'll be able to remove the fibers easily in a process called decortication. Then after that, you can actually bag it or just take it into stakes and pile it and tie it while you're waiting for your off-takers. As for seed, you can just come and harvest as you go. So we're not expecting that. It's not as fastidious as tobacco in terms of the post-harvest losses, because there isn't really much. What we want is the stem. After all the leaves have been taken off, then we can take our fibers from the stem. So we are not looking, so that's aspect that is different from tobacco in terms of losses. So there are not so much post-harvest losses that will happen when it gets to maturity.
Finally, Dr. Magama, I want us to talk about issues surrounding, you know, that in our tobacco production, most of our Zimbabwean farmers, some of them do dryland, some of them do irrigated tobacco. When it comes to industrial hemp, is it a necessity for a person to say you cannot produce industrial hemp without irrigation? Or is it possible for a person to thrive and be profitable relying on rain-fed agriculture?
I think it's possible to do industrial hemp without irrigation. However, as you know, irrigation always guarantees yields. It's very important that the irrigation facility are up, because for those dry months and also some when the rains are not coming, you may need to supplement. But we've had a season like the past season where we've not supplemented in one of our trials. We relied on the natural rainfall, and the crop came out okay as well. But definitely irrigation will always guarantee yields.
Finally, you spoke of yields, Dr. Magama. I know we are closing this first segment. How much can a farmer expect in terms of kilograms or tonnage per hectare?
So from our trials, we see that it's possible from the varieties that we have tested to get 4 tons per hectare, which is your 4,000 kilograms per hectare for the fiber, and you can get up to 1 ton for the seed per hectare, 1 ton per hectare for the seed. This is from our trials.
Thank you so much, Dr. Magama. There you heard it, viewers. We are talking of industrial hemp production here in Zimbabwe as we pave forward towards achieving Vision 2030 as a country. On that note, we are going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in the second segment. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, viewers. We are in the second segment of your program. Today we are talking of industrial hemp production right here in Zimbabwe. Now, viewers, we encourage you to be a part of these conversations. Feel free to get in touch with me, the producer Wadzanai Manyore, on 0772 807 506. Alternatively, you can like our Facebook page, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. Leave your comments and suggestions on our YouTube channel, Agribusiness with Wadzanai. We are also now available on Twitter, and our Twitter handle there is at Agribusiness110. Now, earlier on, before we went to the break, we're talking of industrial hemp, generally soil requirements, fertilizer regimen. We are now in the second segment of your program. Dr. Magama, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Wadzanai.
Yes, kickstarting this second episode, I want us to talk about the varieties in your findings that are suitable for production in Zimbabwe, or generally the varieties that you have made trials of at the moment, currently.
Oh, thank you very much. As you know, we had a bit of a challenge importing varieties. Hemp is not from this part of the world, so we imported varieties from China, Canada, France and Italy, so that we can kickstart this hemp production in Zimbabwe. So what we have is 1.5 years of trialing different varieties, and we see a core of 5 varieties that are coming through. So we've got varieties from China such as Bama and Yuma that are showing promise, but I must put a disclaimer that we are still researching.
It's a work in progress.
It's work in progress. So if there are any growers that are interested in knowing more about varieties, they should get in touch with us, the Tobacco Research Board, and we can go through the determinants of variety choice. But we are seeing a core of 5 varieties that we are happy with, but in a few seasons we'll be able now to officially pronounce that these varieties are really good for this country. I might add on as well that our research so far has been limited to Kutsaga for security reasons. We'll be rolling out these variety trials as we go out as well to other regions as well. But there is a core of varieties that we think are ready for those pioneers that want to get into hemp production.
Okay, Dr. Magama, I want us to talk about the necessity. Why is it necessary for our Zimbabwean farming community or Zimbabwe in general to invest in industrial hemp production at the moment?
Right. So there are a number of reasons why I think we ought to be there, every farmer. One is in support of our government vision. We need to treble our agricultural output. We need agriculture to contribute substantially towards GDP. And hemp on its own over the last few years has been a global commodity. There are ready markets out there. It's another way of diversifying into another export crop. And we think, blessed as we are with our natural environment, our resilient farmers, it's a low-hanging fruit that can be easily assimilated into the crop production practice that we have currently in the country. We're looking at it from a tobacco perspective, where also, if should it happen that tobacco is banned in terms of production, what other crops can our growers benefit from that are profitable for them? And hemp came to the fore. So we are now at TRB concentrating our research to make sure that should that time comes, there's a crop that has lower switching cost and our farmer can continue to profit from their farming activities.
Okay, Dr. Magama, speaking of industrial hemp production, like we're talking in this episode, for our farming community in Zimbabwe, are there specific infrastructure setups that they need to have to qualify for industrial hemp production? You would find that in tobacco, you have your grading sheds, you have your curing barns, you have certain facilities that you require, or your float trays for seedbed production. What sort of infrastructure do you require as a farmer? Say you want to invest and get into industrial hemp production.
I don't think there's much that is needed compared to tobacco. You know, after your harvest, you might leave your plants on the ground in a process called retting, or you can choose to take the leaves and dry them on racks, or you can simply, harvest your seed. So what you need essentially is just a storage and working space for you to store your crop. There's no further processing that is done until you get to the market, or we'll get advice from the merchants. So there'll be merchants specifically for maybe fiber, there'll be merchants for grain. I think they will come with stipulations or conditions on how we go about it. But from the perspective of production, we don't see any special facilities other than that are already on most farms that can be used on that, especially storage space.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Magama. The potential uses of industrial hemp. Stay standing in here,
Yeah.
I know that some of our viewers or our audience at home, they might not understand. They will just say vakamira mumunda wembanje. Yes. Can you talk of the potential uses of industrial hemp, apart from smoking and getting high, of course?
Thank you very much, Wadzadai, for that. So this strain of mbanje, or what we call hemp,
Yes.
is pretty much for what we can call 3 uses. So one is for the fiber.
Okay.
The fiber can be used in a number of applications, including making ropes, making textiles, making paper.
Okay.
Then we've got grain. Grain can be used as food, can be used for oil, can be used for many applications in the textile industry as well. Then lastly, we've got chemicals that are of pharmaceutical importance called cannabinoids that are also found in the flowers.
Okay.
That can also be extracted and then they use in the pharmaceutical industry. So all in all, in those 3 groups that I've mentioned, there are about, it is said there are about 25,000 uses that you can derive from hemp.
Okay.
So what we're really waiting for are the merchants and the processors to come and take our crop, and we can have 25,000 uses of our lovely crop here.
Okay.
And by the way, this one does not get you high.
Okay, because I
purely for industrial purposes.
Okay, because most of our farmers or most of the viewers that are watching from home might say, ini ndinochika kuti ndiproduce mbanje ko vana vakazotema vachishuta ndozozvifambisa sei. Finally, Dr. Gama, I want us to talk about certain skills. Are there any skills in tobacco production? You see that there are various workshops whereby farmers go and have refresher courses. We have various colleges that you can send your employees to learn on tobacco production or tobacco handling. Is it the same with industrial hemp, whereby a farmer has to have maybe unique skills to produce this crop, or it's simple, it's not very difficult?
It's a new crop, Wadzanai, that has come through. I think most people would start looking into how did they include it into different curriculums in universities and colleges. But have a passion for it myself, I don't see it as a crop that is going to demand much on our farmers. Our farmers, they do maize, you know how complicated, they do tobacco, you know how complicated it is. To me, it's a very easy crop. And I think farmers are going to be benefiting much more once we've accumulated the research here, Tobacco Research Board. We are going to issue pamphlets, technical material, handbooks, so that the farmers are guided all the way in terms of production. What we don't want to do is to import reading material from other places that have done hemp. We will do the research here and we advise farmers and hold workshops and training seminars for the benefit of the farmers. Okay,
thank you so much, Dr. Magama. Although viewers, we have come to the end of the second segment of your program. We are talking of industrial hemp production here in Zimbabwe as we pivot towards achieving Vision 2030 as a country. We are going to go on a short commercial break. We'll be right back with this and more in that third and final segment. Stay tuned. Thank you, Zimbabwe, for staying tuned to Agricultural New Directions, Agribusiness in support of Vision 2030. We are here in the third and final segment of your program, where we are talking of industrial hemp production here in Zimbabwe. I have taken the liberty of inviting Dr. Frank Magama. Dr. Magama, we are in the third and final segment of our program. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes. Talking of industrial hemp production, it is an investment opportunity to various players in the industry here in Zimbabwe. Who can we partner with as farmers? Who can come on board and support this initiative?
Thank you very much for that question. It's a new crop, and we need to define our value chain.
Yes.
There are a number of actors that we need for us to succeed. So in terms of partners, we're looking at all the regulators. We're already working with the Department of Research and Specialist Services. We're already working with the Agricultural Marketing Authority. But we also need private players, those that are in the fertilizer industry, those are into the crop chemicals and everything. So all those people are needed so that we can tailor information and products for this typical crop. We also need the off-takers to also come and engage us. What kind of fiber do they want? What kind of seed do they want? So that our research here, Tobacco Research Board, is very informed from the various actors on the value chain.
Okay, Dr. Magama, you would find that in tobacco production, we are exporting to either China, we are exporting either to Japan or a bit of South Africa. In terms of takers of this industrial hemp, once we produce it, once our farming community takes it and embraces it, what countries or what sort of customers are we looking at?
Yes, we are very fortunate that Tobacco Research Board sent some of us to Switzerland for a cannabis business expo. There we learned quite a lot, and Switzerland is one country that is really looking into importing some of our material there. But the general vibe has been Europe mainly. We've got so many people that have contacted us from Europe trying to partner us in terms of both research and also commercial production. So I think the market is really there and it's quite huge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finally, your recommendations. Your word of advice to our farming community here in Zimbabwe, to all the players along the value chain. I understand that the value chain emanates from research.
Yep.
We go on to production, processing, marketing, and consumption. Your word of advice, your recommendations, given that you took it upon yourselves to research into industrial hemp. We are moving along the value chain, going into production, processing, and other stages of the value chain. Your word of advice to our farming community and the various players as we round off this segment.
Thank you for that. So to everyone that has got interest in hemp, Tobacco Research Board, as its name implies, will conjure an image of just tobacco.
Okay.
Here at Kutsaga, we've now been empowered with a new mandate to include hemp research here at the station. So when you look at us at Tobacco Research Board, we are not only doing tobacco research now, we've gone into alternatives to tobacco, and hemp is one such crop that we've delved into. So anyone who wants to get into the hemp space, we are here to assist and partner and collaborate with you to make sure this hemp production in Zimbabwe is a rolling success.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Magama. It was a pleasure having you with us today.
Thank you very much, and thank you, viewers.
On that note, viewers, of having various partners and countries we can export to once we start producing our industrial hemp as a country, we have come to the end of this week's edition. Make sure to make a date with us again next week, same place, same time. From me, your host was Zanai Manyore. I'm also on Instagram. It's a W Manyore, and the crew behind the scenes. Have yourselves a fabulous evening. Thank you for watching.